Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor back with another awesome Entheos class. And this is part of a multi-part series where we're just busting calorie myths and offering sane solutions that are pretty shocking. So always want to come with the data and always want to come with the new science. But the good news is that when you think about it, pretty much every innovation that's happened in history was surprising at one time or another. So we shouldn't be surprised to be surprised by innovation, because that is the definition of innovation. And that's why I love sharing it here on Entheos, because we're all about optimizing our lives and innovating. So it is a warm and receptive audience. So without further ado, let's talk about part 3. So we've had two classes already where we've talked about how exercising less, believe it or not, but smarter, has been shown to basically be better in every way when it comes to a metabolic healing perspective than the conventional exercise methodology. Again, that's not to say that conventional exercise methodology is stupid or bad or wrong, but rather that if we have the specific goal of, for example, avoiding diabetes or reversing obesity or resolving metabolic syndrome, or even being a conscious member of society and realizing that, believe it or not, McKinsey and Company actually just came out with a report that is now showing that obesity has a worldwide economic toll of $2 trillion, which is obviously a large number, but let me put that in perspective really quick. The global economic burden of all armed conflict put together is $2.1 trillion. So obesity is right on par with all of armed conflict in the world in terms of the economic burden that it's putting upon us. So if we can exercise less but smarter and help turn those tides, or as we're going to talk about in these shows, how we can eat more but smarter and help turn the tide, we'll really be doing a lot, not only for our health and for our well-being and those of the people we love and our families, but also for the world as a whole. And for me, that's exciting, and that's about the furthest thing from vanity in the world. So let's talk about how we can eat more and exercise less but smarter. So jumping right into the top 10 big ideas, following up on our first two shows where we talked about how, again, exercising less but smarter doesn't cause obesity. There's a second part to this, which is eating more but smarter. And then the initial thought is, well, if I'm gonna be eating more, I'm gonna be gaining more. I mean, that's just the way it works, right? Your body works like a balance scale. So more food in means more fat stored. Holy moly, the global economic burden of obesity is gonna be $3 trillion if everyone listens to what Jonathan is saying here. So let's quickly pull that apart. So that is actually not at all true. It's intuitive, but it's not true. And I wanna make a quick distinction about trusting our intuition versus trusting that which is proven. So intuition, it's a great thing to start with. It's a great thing to check against reality. But let's keep in mind, as I'm sure a lot of the Entheos fans know, that our mind can sometimes play tricks on us. So if you've read, for example, Predictably Irrational or any of these types of books about cognitive and behavioral psychology, our mind and our intuition isn't always spot on. So this is why we got to rely on testing and we got to rely on data and also use our intuition in conjunction with that. One simple example. It is intuitive as heck that the earth is flat. I think we can all agree with that, right? If you look outside the window, it looks like the earth is flat. Really makes a lot of sense to think that the earth is flat because, heck, if the earth wasn't flat, wouldn't the people on the bottom fall off? It just makes sense. But then we learn science, we learn about gravity, we learn all the different laws of the universe and physics, and we see that actually, no, the earth is round and it's actually spinning at a very fast pace, but somehow we don't fall off and we don't fly around because, yay, science to the rescue. Same kind of thing here. So this idea that eating less is the key to losing weight is basically the flat earth theory of weight loss. Makes a lot of sense, but it is not and has never been borne out by the science. So what is the science actually showing? What the science shows is that, very similar to exercise, food is all about quality. Metabolic health is all about quality. So less but higher quality exercise, and then more but higher quality food. So let's be very clear. The message here is not to take the conventional, nutrient-poor, hormonally damaging starch and sugar and processed fat-rich Western diet and to eat more of that. That is not the takeaway here. But the takeaway is also not to just eat less of those toxic foods. The takeaway is to eat more of high quality foods. So eating more of the wrong foods certainly won't slim you down. Eating more of the right foods absolutely will. So we have to delineate high versus low quality food. And then we also have to understand that calories really aren't the be-all, end-all here. In fact, Dr. Keane over at King's College London tells us point blank that in his clinical research, he has found highly significant inverse correlations between food energy intake and adiposity, or body fat. And part of the reason for that is when we just starve our bodies of nutrition and calories, we actually set ourselves up for fat gain long term. That's something we don't have time to talk about in today's show, but suffice it to say that certainly eating more fattening, toxic, addictive, edible products, while that absolutely will make us gain fat, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about eating more healing, healthy, whole, affordable, and delicious, nutrient-dense, sane foods. All right, so that's big point number one. Big point number two is really to myth bust right out of the gate, because that's still okay. I understand, Jonathan, eat more of the right foods, but if I eat more of the right foods, I've been told for 40 years it's going to make me fat. So I need something more. I need something more to even continue to big idea number three, because this is hard to believe. So big idea number two is let's just talk about some research really, really quickly so that you'll at least stick with me through the rest of the class. So there's no shortage of research. So for example, one of the most promising or interesting studies we have in the field of nutrition are first of all, clinical studies. So these are not where we just go and observe people and then imply causality from correlations. So for example, you go to California and you see that it's really sunny there and you see the people wear sunglasses. So you're like, well, clearly wearing sunglasses makes it sunny, right? That's not the way the world works. But a lot of times epidemiologists do exactly that. And that's where a lot of our nutrition research comes from. That's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on clinical, controlled, good science. And some of the coolest studies in that arena are what's called isocaloric studies. So these are studies where they take two groups of people and they feed them the exact same number of calories. So group A eats 2,000 calories, group B eats 2,000 calories, but they vary the quality of those calories. Now, according to conventional wisdom, that would be a waste of time because all that matters is the quantity of calories you're consuming when it comes to weight and well-being. Well, that is bunk. Here are some examples. So a study, for example, at the University of Connecticut had a, let's call them eat more high quality food group, and then a just eat the same number of calories, but from lower quality sources group. The individuals in the higher quality, but same number of calories group actually ate 300 more calories per day and lost more fat over the course of the study. Let's move on to the University of Pennsylvania, a similar study. But in this study, by the end of it, the individuals in the, these are not isocaloric studies as defined by what I just said, because we've got people eating more calories than the other people. So quick correction. We do have some isocaloric studies we'll touch on, but these are not isocaloric studies. These are what's called ad libitum studies. Ad libitum is a scientific term for we just let people eat as much as they want. So we just say, hey, you've got these foods to choose from, eat as much as you want. We don't say gorge yourself. We don't say starve yourself. We just say eat till you're comfortable. So the Eat More High Quality Food group in study number 1 was allowed to eat. They ate more calories and they actually lost more weight, which is very interesting. Similar thing happened at the University of Pennsylvania. In this study, individuals ate 9,500 more calories over the course of the study, so nearly 10,000 more calories. But by the end of the study, they had lost 200% more weight. And keep in mind that this isn't a multivariate study, meaning they're not exercising more. The only variability is the quality of food they're eating, and then of course the quantity of calories they're consuming. So again, in this study, almost 10,000 more calories, but almost 200% more weight lost. So this is a study from the journal Obesity Research. It gets even more exciting. The individuals in the Eat More but High Quality group ended up eating over 25,000 more calories over the course of the study, and they didn't gain any additional weight. So while they didn't lose more weight than the other group, they ate 25,000 more calories and didn't gain weight. So it certainly doesn't prove anything necessarily, but a lot of these studies, they disprove this mythology we've been given. And then finally, a journal from the Journal of Adolescent Health. This was a study that was done on obese children and teenagers, which is really, really interesting, especially in a world today where we have over 40 million children under the age of 5 who are struggling with overweight. And over the course of this study, again, kids given higher quality food, another group of kids given lower quality food. The kids are told ad libitum, probably didn't use that word because that ain't going to make sense to anyone, especially kids. And they said, kids, eat as much as you want, but of different qualities of food. And in this study, by the end, the kids who ate as much as they want of higher quality food ended up eating over 65,000 more calories than the low quality food group and ended up losing 141% more weight. Let's repeat that really quick. Kids who ate, we've got kids all eating an unlimited amount of food based on just their appetite. One group's eating higher quality, one group's eating lower quality food. The group who's eating higher quality food ends up consuming 65,000 more calories than the group who is not. And they lose 141% more weight. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty promising. So let's keep going to big idea number 3, because hopefully by now you're willing to believe big idea number 3, which is that this isn't all about the calories. There's a lot of other stuff going on here. And it may just seem like a defiance of physics to say that someone can eat more calories and burn more. But let's keep in mind that saying that eating more causes us to store more is ignoring many, many other things that our body can do with calories, right? So there's a bunch of different ways we burn calories and we store calories other than just this overly simplistic metabolic math equation that we've all been fed. And what I want to focus on for the rest of this class is explaining how this is even possible, how you can have a study where individuals eat 65,000 more calories and lose 141% weight, and also to give a quick 141% more weight. And also to give a quick disclaimer that the point here is not to say, hey, let's all go buy Weight Gainer 3000 powder from our local supplement store and just eat that because the key to losing more fat is just to eat more nonsense. That's not the case, but it is the case to rattle the cages of the people out there who are telling us to starve ourselves as if starvation somehow became healthy, which of course it's not. So how can our metabolism actually be trained to burn rather than to store calories, right? That's the key thing we're talking about here. We're talking, are we storing calories? Are we burning calories? And is there a way we can make our body better at burning rather than storing calories? So let's talk about how that could be possible. And let's talk about different ways our body can handle the calories that we consume. And there's no better place to look for research than the Mayo Clinic, one of the most prestigious research institutions in the world. And that's where we're headed next. So there was a study done at the Mayo Clinic. And this study actually fed individuals surplus calories. They fed them 1,000 additional calories per day over the course of this study, which totaled to feeding these people 56,000 surplus calories. This was what's called an overfeeding study. They're done very, very frequently, and they wanted to see how bodies reacted when overfed. And again, a really cool study. They measured everyone's base metabolic rate. They figured out how many calories everyone in the study needed precisely to maintain their body weight. And then they just added 1,000 calories. So pretty clearly, right, this study, based on everything we've been taught, should have just resulted in a bunch of people gaining a bunch of weight. And let's be very specific. If they're consuming 56,000 surplus calories at the Mayo Clinic over the course of this study, and if there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, and we just do some quick metabolic math, and we see that every single person in this study, according to metabolic math, should have gained approximately 16 pounds. Okay, what did the study actually show, right? Did every single person in the study gain the same amount of weight since they ate the same amount of additional calories? And was that amount of weight what we would predict by metabolic math, 16 pounds? Absolutely not. In fact, that's 100% wrong. 0% of the people gained 16 pounds. What actually happened is the most anyone gained was about half that, 8 pounds. And some people, after eating 56,000 surplus calories, gained less than a pound. In fact, it was not even really statistically significant. So one could say some people in this study consumed enough calories to theoretically gain 16 pounds of fat, surplus calories, but gained no fat. How, and this isn't some N equals 1 fringe internet chat room. This is the Mayo Clinic. So how is that even possible, right? This is just, if you come away from this study just having your mind opened a little bit, that's what I want. You're not going to necessarily understand everything you need to do to unclog your metabolism yet, but at least hopefully you can see that maybe what you've been told is not right, and it's time to question and it's time to innovate. So again, but how is this just even possible? How is this possible? So in this Mayo Clinic study, what it uncovered and what it actually looked at were a bunch of different ways that our body can handle surplus calories other than storing them. So one of the most common ways we can handle excess calories rather than storing them is just to burn them off. There's, again, a mythology that if you eat more, you just store more. That's not true. What this study showed, and what many other studies show, is that if your metabolism is functioning properly, when you eat more calories, you just burn more calories. Much like if you drink more water, you just go to the bathroom more. It's not as if you just store a bunch of water in your body. You might retain some water, but over time, your body's going to balance you out. And this is put really well by the medical journal QJM, which tells us verbatim, foods in excess of immediate requirements can be easily disposed of, being burnt up and dissipated as heat. Did this capacity not exist, obesity would be almost universal. So we've got to look at metabolism in terms of how can we train it to, again, burn and handle calories that are in excess of our daily needs in a healthy way, rather than just storing them. So we can burn more calories, but how are we actually burning more calories? How is that happening? It's just magic wand wave. Well, there's at least 3 ways that researchers looked at in this Mayo Clinic study. There are many more, but let's focus on these 3. And those are our base metabolic rate, which we're probably pretty familiar with. That's just the baseline number of calories our body burns, being us, per day. Most people don't realize this, but there is also about 10% of the calories you burn in the course of a day are spent just digesting food. This is called dietary induced thermogenesis, or DIT, also studied in this Mayo Clinic examination. And then there's something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or burning calories through involuntary movement. And this doesn't mean your arm just starts flailing uncontrollably if you eat more calories, but our muscles are constantly twitching and moving without our awareness, and that can burn a heck of a lot of calories over the course of a day. And that's actually what researchers found. What researchers found in this study was, how is it possible that some people can eat 56,000 too many calories and almost gain no weight? Well, these individuals had a sharp increase in their base metabolic rate. They had a sharp increase in the amount of calories they burnt every day just digesting food. And they had a sharp increase in the number of calories they burnt through involuntary activity. So it was a bit like their body saw that they had a surplus of calories. And think about it in terms of they just started wasting it. So if your body sees that there's a shortage of calories, it's going to use them very precisely, just like if you lost your job. If you lost your job, you didn't have a lot of money coming in, you're going to be very meticulous and deliberate about how you spend your money. But now if someone just starts dumping money on you, you're, woo, make it rain. I mean, you're just going to start spending money all over the place. So imagine your body making it rain with calories, right? So you're getting calories dumped into your body. Your body's like, heck, I'm just going to waste calories basically because I have an abundance of them. That's basically what happened in this study. So it's not magic. It's not something turning into nothing. It's calories, which are a source of energy, just being used more generously by the body and then burnt off as heat. This is called thermogenesis. So it seems like magic. It's not really magic. It's actually hardcore science. So the question is then, how do we get our bodies to do this, right? The question is not, if you think about, like, what is the magical answer to ending obesity? If you could think about a theoretical world. Theoretical world would be, what if everyone's bodies could respond to more calories in with more calories out? Or just take care of the problem. Imagine if you could make your body, when it comes to weight and energy, work like it does with water. Right? We don't have a bloating epidemic because drinking water just stores water on people's bodies and they can't do anything about it. No, if you drink more water, you urinate more, you don't need to think about it. Well, what we see is that with healthy individuals, when they have unclogged metabolic systems, this is exactly how energy works. You eat more, you burn more automatically. It's borne out in myriad clinical studies. So what we need to focus on is training our metabolisms to do that. And the way we do that is not starving ourselves. It's not by eating less. So bringing it all the way back to the beginning of the study, eating less is not going to change the way your system works. It will only give it less fuel. So think about it like your car. Putting less gasoline in your car's gas tank doesn't change the way your car works. It's the quality of what you put in your gas tank that changes the way your car works. So if your car was working really poorly and you realized that the reason it was working poorly was because your child was putting apple juice in your gas tank, the solution wouldn't be like, hey, little Jimmy, would you just put less apple juice in the gas tank? No. The solution would be to put more high quality, unleaded, hopefully eco-friendly fuel into the gas tank. Same thing applies here. So we've got to eat sane, whole, high quality foods to train our metabolism to burn calories rather than to store them, to keep us healthy automatically. And we can't cover all of that in one session, but we've got a lot more classes coming up. And of course, if you want to learn about these sane, high quality foods, you can always hop over to sanesolution.com. Again, that's SANE, S-A-N-E, solution.com. Sign up for your free plan, and you're going to be freaking burning calories like a mad person. Anyway, this is Jonathan Bailor. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And remember, stay sane.